Hello, welcome to another edition of Harbor Town. Listen, it's been such a long time since I made a video. Actually, that's not the right way to say that. It's more like I've done so much building since the last time I made a video that I figured it would be good to just take an opportunity to just walk through how things are looking right now. Before it got too far away, I just feel like one of the things that's nice about making these videos is kind of seeing the sort of almost a time lapse of the town as it grows and develops. So all of the building has been focused on actually, you know what? Everything except one thing, one small thing, which is that. So it wasn't even a building, it's a building that I already had done. You might remember, maybe or may not, that's okay. But a very, very, very long time ago, in the beginning of this building, this harbor, I actually had a building that sat, I think, about here. And it was quite large, and I just didn't like where it was. And I ended up feeling like I found a place for that building up here on the so called Rich People's Bluff. So I'm moving my way over there now. You can sort of see it here. I'm moving towards it. And I have not sort of like worked it into the ground. This is a building that I had, once I built it, I saved a schematic of it. We've talked about that before. And so then I could reload this building and put it somewhere else later. And so I've decided to have it live about here. Um, and my thought around this building is that it doesn't look exactly like, kind of a residence. Even, I mean, maybe you could say, but perhaps it could look like a mansion. But what I really figured was I was like, nah, this is just a really like ritzy rich people's like club hangout restaurant, whatever. Uh, and I just think its size and also its elaborate architecture makes it feel like it is well placed up here. And I will finish sort of like really um, working it all into the ground. We'll have some stairways that come up to it and stuff later. But you can especially see it really also serves the cliff line as well. Yeah, it's just well placed there. So that's one thing I did. But everything else has been completely focused on trying to complete the market square. Um, and as you can recall, I've had a lot of outlines around that, and it's really a major piece to accomplish, and it looks so good. I'm so happy with how it's turned out. And I'm actually going to walk in. Sorry for that. I know that the video is a little bit jittery because when I'm recording the video and it makes the frame rate just a little bit choppy. But now I'm gonna walk in, uh, just because I think that's kind of a neat perspective as well. Like a lot of times I fly in, but sometimes I think it's kind of neat to sort of walk in as though you're really a person like coming through. So as you can see over here, there continues to be sort of in construction like things. So I've got building over here to complete, and obviously this is the last plot of the market square that I need to complete. Um, and now what we have is we have a complete square that's totally done. So the first thing I'll do before I pull out and look at it from a higher level, we'll walk in here in the center as sort of like you would experience the fountain if you were just walking around. This fountain has little glowstones behind it so that at nighttime this fountain will glow, which is kind of neat. And we've started to put together the little market stalls. Now, without having people in, and it's a little bit tricky to try to make this feel a little bit, alive, when really it's always going to feel like kind of like a ghost town. Um, but I've attempted to put some little bits of stuff around these market area stalls just to give some kind of a sense that there's commerce to be had here. So you can see the same thing over here. We've got some different boxes, stacks of things. Um, it's just to try to give it a little bit of a sense of life. And I may do more with it as I go on. You can see the conquest pack that I have. It does have some furniture type things or decorative type things that go beyond just the square block. So like it has these little carts and stuff. So I've tried to put some of those in there. I've tried to put little pieces of paper, a little bit of like, dropped pamphlets or just some little bit of, trash in this area. Wanted to make the grass not feel kind of trod upon and all of that. And yes, so here's another example of trying to make these little market stalls feel a little bit alive. Um, so in the previous video, you had seen sort of the row houses that had been working on this side. And of course, I've continued that along a little bit, added some additional row houses along here. And what I did for these is just, I don't think there's not really a problem in my mind with some of these buildings being the same basic construction. That doesn't necessarily seem strange to me. What I did do though is not do them as just sort of the same exact order. So each of these individual houses I put over here in a different order. So they actually end up in a little bit of different tweaks, still subtle little different changes to their design. And what I discovered is when you really step back and look at it, it actually looks really, really good. This whole range of row houses here ends up looking like really, really good to my taste. And then as you move down here, you can see the building that from the screenshot that I'd given before, this large structure here. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times I try to have some sense of what these buildings are. So row houses is pretty straightforward. It's the kinds of houses that can be rented out either for living spaces, for small shops, all that stuff makes sense. This building I just like, and I think it's absolutely great, and I do think it totally fits the square. I don't know exactly what would be all in here, but that doesn't really feel that important to me. It's a building that I definitely know that I like. Interestingly enough, the way you get into this building is in these little stairway entrances here. These are what take you in. And then from here, I've only done the basic flooring. You know me, I never do elaborate interiors until way, way later, if ever. I mostly care about the outside. All I care about at the inside is that they have basic flooring and stuff. And then if I get bored and I want to do more later, I can. But anyway, yeah, so this is how you get up to the next floor, and so on. And this is how you get down to the lower level. You can only get down to this level, or kind of ground level, from the inside. And then this takes you back to the street level. And then after this building, oh, by the way, yes, this building has a couple of places to exit the square into the next sort of streets, which eventually will be filled with buildings and stuff themselves. Similarly, there's a similar thing over here. So you can go underneath this part of the building, also exiting into other areas of town that obviously are not complete yet. So yeah. Then after that, I then built this next building, and again, these were just buildings where I wanted them to, I'll back up a little bit. I wanted them to fill the space of the market square, look to my mind as though they sort of belonged in some way. I tried to think of things I might want to do a little bit differently, just little changes. I'm like, well, I'll have this one have an overhanging balcony on the second floor, things like that. But that's it. Like at this point in the square, I'm like, I really just need to fill in and enclose the space with things that look plausible. Not every single one of these buildings has to have a clear role-playing type purpose for what it does. But I do like the way it turns out. I feel like it filled the space really nicely. And then we have a couple of the larger row houses here to just finish this off. And then over here, the way this worked, I realized that can actually this will be another sort of street level area, and then these are some row housing that's facing towards this street instead of towards the market square. However, the side that does face the market square also has its own interest and has balcony and overhang, and so I feel like that looked really nice. So, okay, with the tour around sort of at the street level, now I will fly, and we can pull back a little bit and take a look. Although my time just switched to morning, and so it's got this morning fogs. Maybe I'll say time set noon, see what that does. Oh, there we go. That's much better. So yeah, so if we pull out a little bit, you can get a sense now for what this is looking like as it is mostly complete. It's all really, the market square is pretty much done except for need to fill in this last sort of building space there. But you can get a sense now for how this all comes together. And I'll have to say, it's so cool to go from a place where I just had those colored outlines on the ground and a loose idea in my head of what I really hoped this would look like, to seeing it sort of come alive and be better than I had hoped. I'm actually extremely happy with how this turned out. There's no part of me that's like, well, it's pretty good, but I didn't quite do it. I'm just like, this is better than I imagined when I was kind of trying to think of what I wanted in my brain. So it makes me really happy. I feel really good about it. It also makes me excited for continuing the city. This turned out so well and so good. It keeps my energy for everything else that I want to do, which honestly, the plans that I have, it's great. It gives me something to do if I want to and if it feels fun for me for an indefinite period of time. I have ideas that would stretch all the way out there into the forest, all the way back to the very, very back of this ridge back there, all the way through this section and probably beyond past that pink area into this other area. Over here, maybe. I haven't decided for sure if I have that much plan, but you can see I've even thought about it. I've even put a little place where I was like, well, that could be a bridge over there. So, yes, it's possible. And then honestly, I don't know that this would necessarily feel as exciting to me, but in my head, I'd actually like to take this around all of this area out here on this side of the wall and beyond. I'd like to develop this into farmland with some various farms and windmills and fields and things. Uh, I would love to do that as well. So there's plenty and plenty and plenty of opportunity to just keep developing this town, and I am just really very happy with how it's turning out. And that just feels really, really good. But in particular, at Market Square, when it was just an outline on the ground, I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this in a way that will really make me happy. And then it turns out, look at that. That's just really, really good. That is really, really good. Okay, well, that's my video for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it.